grade book. I think the project grades have not been entered, and I hope to get that in this Friday with the mid-review, and that will give you a closer idea of your actual course grade. Though if nothing is deployed, then it might just be zeroed out. Um, I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna try and draw this out. We're gonna talk about model associations, and these are the different types of relationships. So in your greetings, oof, this is horrible. You more or less have a table, and the first column is maybe ID, right? Every greeting has an ID, and you can see that in the URL when you're trying to edit it or delete it. And then each greeting has a message. So we always see the hello world message, and it probably has an ID of 1. Okay. So that's what you've been working with. And now in the so I'm gonna not talk about the polls, questions, and blogs since I'm not sure how far everyone got on that. But say you have another table of users, right? Yeah. And we're just gonna say the name of the user. So the first user might be an ID of 1, and it might be an admin. The next user might have ID of 2, and it might be John. So we can use these IDs to link a greeting on one table to a user in another table. And that's the idea of foreign keys. And how we do that depends on what we want to do, right? If we want a one-to-one relationship, many-to-one, or many-to-many. So one-to-one might look like this. So right now in this scenario, we have 2 separate tables. And then let's duplicate that. And then we can say one-to-one association. And then we can, in this scenario, we can add another column. So this is where your migrations will come in. If you made one table first and decided to do an association, you have to make another migration. And you can, and this would be, say, user ID, right? So if hello world is the greeting associated with John, then in this column, you'll have an ID of 2, so that it'll point to John. And if John ever changes the name, say, then it doesn't matter. The association is still there, and you know that John, no matter what the name is has still the same greeting. Contrast that to if you had placed John here, then you know then this might be outdated, and you need to kind of update the table to reflect the new name. But if it's associated, then you change it one place and your data is consistent throughout. So let's just do one more example here. A second greeting, and then maybe this one belongs to admin. So have an ID of 1. And so that greeting will be associated with the admin, the user with the name of admin or an ID of 1. Does that make sense? So the concept is the same no matter what language or framework, because no matter what language or framework, it's still database tables backing up the data, and Django might do it one way, another framework might do another way, but at the end of the day, it's these foreign keys that kind of link tables. I think someone was about to say something. Sorry if I interrupted. Okay. So so this is one-to-one. Actually, is this making sense? Should I stop? Is this good enough? Should I go on to one-to-many, many-to-one? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go to many-to-one as well, since okay. So and then I haven't talked about code, right? So the tutorials can tell you how to do this. So they're gonna talk about, a place and a location. So they have this example code, and then hopefully this mental picture will give you an idea. And I'm just gonna so yeah, go on to the one-to-one. So this is the basic concept: foreign keys, and this is a one-to-one kind of a scenario. And each one is just one more layer of complexity, but the core concept's the same. So here, I think something they call one-to-many, many-to-one. Um, and the other documentation that's really helpful is Ruby on Rails, another framework written in the Ruby language. I actually like their docs a lot. And they kind of, if anyone's interested on another type of another way of explaining the same idea, I posted on chat. That's I think that's what I read when I first started. So okay, so one-to-many. So same idea. With the one extra layer of complexity is now, if you have a third greeting, you can actually say, that this greeting also belongs to the same user. So this would go to this user. So I'll try to use a different color now. So the green ones, you have many greetings associated to the same one user. And that's all that is. And you can have two, right now there's two greetings associated to the same user. You can have 3 or 4. And again, to contrast that, if instead of using user ID, we just put the username here. If we had John spelled one way and John changes the name, we have to go through the entire table and change all the Johns to the correct one and hope things line up, right? So again, this association, you change it one place, all these greetings are associated to the same John and everything works out. Yeah, one to many, many to one. Yeah, I treat them the same. Maybe there's a nuance somewhere that I don't know of, but to me, I just think of them the same. Was that the question, Ibra? But yeah, well, you was typing that. Any questions on the one to many or many to one scenario? And then the last one is many to many. Oh, many messages to one user. Yeah, or one user to many messages. I think they're the same. But maybe in some cases it's not the same. Uh, but for the most part, we're not doing anything fancy. They should be equivalent. Um, I guess for completeness, I'll just go through the many to many. Um, but I think you kind of have the idea. Um, but if you really don't want me to go through it, just tell me to stop. But it's hard to gauge what everyone wants. Or is what's useful to most people. Okay, so in this scenario, actually, I forgot this one. But essentially, you want like multiple messages can be related to multiple users. And I'm drawing a blank as how these foreign keys work. Um, okay, that, let's see. Many publications have many articles. Hmm. Many to many foreign. Oh, oh yeah, that's right. Sometimes they use these through tables. Okay, So if I can select this. All right, I'm gonna try erase. All right, this is horrible. And let's delete. Okay, so I don't think it's always necessary. I'm drawing a blank on how to do it without a through table. But what this will do is you can have greeting ID and also user ID. Sorry. So here, depending if this table has more columns or not, because you might have information about the relationship, then it might have its own ID column, but that's optional. It depends how you want to structure your data. So here we might have greeting one is associated with greeting user one, and greetings one is also associated with user two. And then we can also say greeting two is associated with user one. Okay, so if we're to draw those arrows out, so user greeting one is associated with user one. Greetings one is associated with user two, and then user greetings two is associated with user one. So there's many going to one, and then yeah. So okay. So this is many to one, and then I feel like I'm missing one more example. So we have two greetings to one user, one greeting to two users. Yeah, I think that covers it. So one greeting can be associated with multiple users, one and two, and multiple greetings can be associated to one user. Okay, so that is the idea. Using these tables, then you can sort of join them, right? You can do more complex queries, do more advanced things. So the next question is kind of like, when do you use what, right? But before we dive into that, any questions so far on this through table? And one to many, many to many. Okay. And really, it really depends on what you're trying to model. Whatever, however it's structured in the real world, if you capture it, like how it's structured in the real world would determine how you kind of model it in your database. So if we were to, so there's one to many to one, and many to many. And this part it really helps to kind of like talk it through and use like sentences, I find. Um, so a place, let's see, I like the way they worded it here. So a book, an author can have many books, right? Let's just stick with Django, sorry. So a restaurant is a place, and I guess a place is also a restaurant. Um, so each one would have different attributes. A place has an address, whereas a restaurant can have a menu kind of thing. Um, but each restaurant can only be in one location. So that would make sense to have a one-to-one. Um, and then and why not just have it in one table, right? Why not just have one restaurant table with an address column? So that depends if you want to kind of like the John name, if you think that it your data might grow where the user changes the name. Um, so in this case, I guess I can't see a scenario where you would, if it's one-to-one. Okay, yeah. Oh, I guess so. If you want to list a bunch of addresses, then having it in a separate location will make it easy to do your queries, right? I want to list a bunch of addresses, then you don't have to go through the entire table with the menu stuff in it. So it just kind of simplifies your queries, right? Sorry if that on the fly thing example is not jiving. Um, okay, so many to one. So a reporter can have many articles, right? Um, there are scenarios where articles are written by multiple reporters, multiple authors, but yeah. So this is an example where if your articles are only single authors, then this one to many model would work. But if it is a scenario where you can have multiple authors in one article, then you might need a many to many. So again, it just depends what you're trying to model, and that'll dictate which relationship you use. I hope that makes sense. And then let's see what their example is for many to many. Yeah, so in this one, I think a publication can have many articles, and an article can be published in many publications. So that's a many to many. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I can explain more, but I don't know how you guys are taking this in, if it's even useful. Uh, okay, so I guess relating that to your project, um, instead of just one table, try to do something more complex. So I think one example was a prescription app, right? You can have one table of users and a user can author many prescriptions. So that's the one-to-many. Or if you want people to share prescriptions, then that might be a many-to-many, right? One user can create the prescription, and then the prescription might be subscribed to by multiple users, right? So it depends on what you want to visualize, how you want to do the queries, and they'll determine your data models, your database table structure, schema, kind of thing. Questions, comments, concerns? Is that okay? Can we move on? Or there's still some? Okay, I'm gonna assume yes. So I'm gonna stop the recording since it's already long.